can't do that. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I'm going to do my commercial about coming to Torah study tomorrow at the beginning, because the Torah portion this week has more mitzvot than any other. There's 72 mitzvot in this one. And they range from all kinds. Okay, once the door is closed and MJ's not listening. No, some of them, I'm kidding. I'm just telling you then that it's the kind of thing that I won't necessarily talk about if MJ is here, so come for this. And you may have heard, we talked about this a lot. I think it may even be, if it's in the announcements, I apologize. Again, let me check. I don't like repeating all these things. We have typically during Oneg Shabbat, which starts about half an hour after service, at least 5 different states represented, often more than that. On Saturday mornings, we have at least 7 different states represented consistently. Way more people than we have in person these days, which is okay, I get it. But more states represented than we have people in person sometimes. And I encourage you to, at least for Oneg Shabbat, invite your family from all over the place and have them just join our Zoom, and we get to meet them. We met other family members last week. Other people brought family members and things. And I wanted to point out that as we get closer to the High Holy Days, little by little, we are officially scheduling things that we didn't know we could. Every time the governor makes a new announcement and he doesn't shut us down, we're saying, yay, we're going to move forward with this or that or whatever. And so right now, for example, we do have a slichot scheduled for next Saturday, but we won't be in person for next Saturday night, partially because it's supposed to be something that happens at night. And most of the people who like to come don't want to drive at night, and I'd like to respect that as well. So we're taking care of that. And you'll hear more details about that later if you haven't already read about it in your emails. And I want to say that if you're not getting the emails, this is something we didn't know about. I got a contact from someone who is not getting emails, and we didn't know that. And so let us know, or call your friends and make sure that they're getting their emails, because our system tells us if you get the emails or not. And this person has been getting all of our emails and never opened them. It says they're being delivered, but never opened them. So that's a problem, and we're figuring out how to rectify that. But and I want to also say thank you for, number one, ignoring the email we told you to ignore. That was a nightmare for a moment. And I want to thank you to everyone who has read the email about answering my questions. Some people said, well, I'll read your email, but don't expect me to answer an email. That's fine, and I respect that too. But I have gotten some of the sweetest memories for this. I'm so glad I did this. You don't know. I wrote on Wednesdays, I'm calling them something like Wondering Wednesdays or something like that. And I asked a question. This week, I contacted the congregants, and I asked them to tell me what their favorite part of the High Holy Days is, or what they remember. Because I have these very fond memories of the old days in Brooklyn with my grandparents and my great-grandmother, and sitting next to my great-grandmother, and I can remember these things. And there was a chazan, the cantor, who chanted the whole service. It wasn't even the rabbi, it was the cantor, and the melodies and the foods, and that everybody in the whole neighborhood in Brooklyn, everybody walked to synagogue. It wasn't all the same synagogue. There were many synagogues around. There were Sephardic, and everybody's walking. And on Yom Kippur, when everybody's walking, they're all wearing fancy white outfits, and everybody has sneakers on. Everybody has sneakers on. And those are some of my favorite memories. And people wrote with memories. And I was excited to hear about other traditions that I had never experienced. But I was also excited to hear about some people who lived in the Deep South and had similar memories to mine. There was something that helped, there was something kind of that made me feel like home again. Even though it's far from Brooklyn, there was something that felt really good. So I might continue to do that. People may get bored of answering questions, or they may want to answer some questions and not others. If you did not get the question, you're still welcome to email me with the answers. I didn't know what I was going to do with the answers, and maybe now that I've seen them, maybe I can post some answers and not necessarily say who wrote them, or see if people will let me post them and say who wrote them, because it's so precious. And it's interesting to see, as you think about your favorite memories, and you can change your answer as much as you need, but for holidays, a lot of times it's about who you're with or what you ate. I'm just going to say, those are the two, and it was sweet to see how they worded it. For people who were newer Jewish, a lot of times it was apples and honeys. And for people who were Jewish for a little bit longer, it had something to do with matzah balls. For people who were Jewish for even longer, it even included gefilte fish. So it was kind of fun to watch that dynamic happen. But I thought it was very sweet to see that a lot of memories involved food, and as did mine. So I'm grateful for that. And we'll talk about other wonderful things in just a few minutes. But first, we need to appreciate the fact that we can take breaths as we take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Try again. Let it out slowly. We're going to continue on page 82. Please rise as we bless the candles. We read together, "These lights are only flickering flames, yet flames illumine our uncertain steps. Flames remind us of Sabbaths long past and of their beauty that delighted our hearts. May they inspire us to work for the great Sabbath of peace." Brachi b'shemoy, brachi b'shemoy, brachi b'shemoy. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Please say Shabbat Shalom. I breathed in the smoke, and there's not even a lot of smoke there. So I'll put this on for a sec. Excuse me. My brother taught me two things about masks. One is that your thumbs are stronger than your other fingers. So as you're pinching, use your thumbs. And the other is that if your ears are hurting, when you wear the straps, then instead of going from the top down, wrap from the bottom up. We're good. We continue with welcoming the angels on page 84.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Malkei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachi Elyon, Mi Melech Malachi Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzetechem L'Shalom, Malachi HaShalom, Malchi Elyon, Mi Melech Malchi Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Page 85. The synagogue is the sanctuary of Israel. Born of our longing for the living God, it has been to Israel throughout our wanderings, a visible token of the presence of God in our people's midst. Its beauty is the beauty of holiness. Steadfast, it has stood as the champion of justice, mercy, and peace.
Its truths are true for all people. Its love is a love for all people. Its God is the God of all people. As it has been said, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples.
Let all the family of Israel, all who hunger for righteousness, all who seek the eternal, find God here, and here find life. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala, ba'agala, uvizman kariv v'meru. Amen. Yehesh merabba mevarach la'alam ul'almei almaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemeh dekudesha
Berichu.
Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata
Tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran ba'alma v'meru. Amen.
Barechu et Adonai hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed.
Oh God, how can we know you? Where can we find you? You are as close to us as breathing, yet you are farther than the farthermost star. You are as mysterious as the vast solitudes of night, yet as familiar to us as the light of the sun. To Moses you said, "You cannot see my face, but I will make all my goodness pass before you." Even so does your goodness pass before us, in the realm of nature and in the joys and sorrows of life.
When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives and we can begin to change the world. And then you live within our hearts, and we through righteousness behold your presence. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
You may be seated, and we will read together at the bottom of 88. You shall love your eternal God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your being. Set these words, which I command you this day, upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be symbols before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you consecrate yourselves to your God. I am your eternal God who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I am your eternal God. I, the Eternal One, have called you to righteousness and taken you by the hand and kept you. I have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations.
We are Israel, witness to the covenant between God and God's children.
This is the covenant I make with Israel. I will place my Torah in your midst and write it upon your hearts. I will be your God, and you shall be my people.
We are Israel. Our Torah forbids the worship of race or nation, possessions or power.
You who worship gods that cannot save you, hear the words of the Eternal One. I am God, there is none else.
We are Israel. Our prophets proclaimed an exalted vision for the world.
Hate evil and love what is good. Let justice well up as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream.
We are Israel, schooled in the suffering of the oppressed.
You shall not oppress your neighbors nor rob them. You shall not stand idle while your neighbor bleeds.
We are Israel, taught to beat swords into plowshares, commanded to pursue peace.
Violence shall no longer be heard in your land, desolation and destruction within your borders. All your children will be taught of your God, and great shall be the peace of your children.
We are Israel, O God, when we are witnesses to your love and messengers of your truth.
You are my witnesses, says the Eternal One, and my servant whom I have chosen. Know me, therefore, and put your trust in me.
We are Israel, O God, when we proclaim you God our Redeemer, as did our ancestors on the shores of the Red Sea. Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedav hakodesh, norati hilot osef ele, norati hilot osef ele. Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la.
Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. We praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel. Page 92. May we lie down this night in peace and rise up to life renewed. O God, spread over us your shelter of peace, of quiet and calm, and bless us with rest. And let a time come when morning will bring no word of war or famine or anguish, a time of happiness, of contentment and rest. We give thanks for the night and its rest, and the promise of peace for all the world. Please join with me in English below the Hebrew. The people of Israel shall keep the Sabbath,
observing the Sabbath in every generation as a covenant for all time. It is a sign forever between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days the Eternal One made heaven and earth, but on the seventh day God rested and was refreshed.
We continue with the tefillah on page 93. Please rise. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, v'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Koneh HaKol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, u'mevii geula livnei v'neihem, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. In the middle of page 94. God of all generations, of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, of Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel, be praised. Your wondrous creative power fills heaven and earth.
God of life and death, be praised. Through us send help to the falling, healing to the sick, freedom to the captive. Confirm your faithfulness to those who sleep in the dust.
Awesome and holy God, be praised. With acts of love and truth we hallow your name, as it is said, all y'all be holy, for I, your eternal God, am holy.
God of times and seasons, be praised. Enable us through Sabbath rest to explore and learn and impart the meanings of your Torah. Make our hearts ready to serve you this day and all days.
God who answers prayer, be praised. May we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. Wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God.
Source of life and its wonders, be praised. You are the miracle within all we behold. You are goodness, you are compassion. We give thanks to you forever.
We sing.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo'olam. Ki atahu melech adon lekol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lekol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo'olam. V'tov be'enecha levarich et Amcha Yisrael b'kol et u'v'kol sha'am b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo'olam. Tasim Lo'olam. Tasim Lo'olam.
We take a moment for silent prayer. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Our hearts and our prayers now turn to all who are ill, recuperating, dealing with the consequences of COVID-19 or confinement, coping with disasters, or the recent death of loved ones. We continue on the inside back cover of our prayer book. We're worried a little bit about the people in New England. I mean, we're worried a lot. We hope that that hurricane doesn't hit them and that they survive that. That hasn't happened yet, but we're praying for their safety as well. There are a lot of people in the world right now who are in our hearts. If you have people for whom you would like us to be praying and you want to call out the names, I invite you to call out names now. For all these names, for the names we choose to hold in our hearts and not say out loud, we pray together. Oh God, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers with the prayers of all who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen in them the healing powers you have placed within us all. Guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to them and to their dear ones. May they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked to theirs. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. We praise you, eternal God, the source of healing and health. And it has become our tradition to also add, on behalf of what we call our first responders, our heroes, on behalf of the military, the police, the firefighters, EMTs, doctors and nurses, and veterans. Misheberach avotenu ve'imotenu, may the one who blessed and protected our ancestors guard all those whom we've entrusted with the responsibility of defending our freedom, protecting us, or healing us in this country, in the land of Israel, and everywhere they've been called to serve. Give them courage to succeed and strength to persevere. May they return home safely, and let us say, Amen. I want to tell you a couple of little stories, true story, and they all have to do with animals, because part of the Torah portion that we read this weekend talks about how we are obligated to be humane, and some of that humanity is about animals. So first, I'll tell you my stories. Some of you know that it was months ago now, March. Ron was out walking one night, and a cat came up to him, and Ron always likes to pet animals and pet the animal, and cat went away. Cat comes back, pets it, goes away. Cat comes back, a dog barks, cat comes running to Ron. Next thing you know, Ron is like texting me saying, Ema, look, there's this cat, and it seems to like me, and what do I do? Does it have a collar? No. Okay, bring it home. So he brings it home, and I don't know what to do at all with a cat because I've been a dog person my whole life. And so I meet him on the steps, my porch in front of my house. And I had run into the house, and I opened up a can of tuna fish. I don't know. I thought they liked tuna fish. And I brought a bowl of water, and I left them out on the porch. And Ron is like, we can't just feed it outside. What if it runs away? I'm like, well, then it runs away. No, I can't just let it run away. So we cleaned out an area in our laundry room and put the can of tuna fish and the water in the laundry room and took everything else out. I took a laundry basket and put a towel in. I don't know. What do you do for a cat? I have no idea. I couldn't have told you if it was a boy or a girl cat. I couldn't have told you anything about cats. I know nothing about cats. And first thing in the morning, we ran over and made sure we checked to see if it had a chip. We called it the PET scan, and it didn't have a chip. We posted it on all of the social media we could find, and long story short, we now have a cat. And I don't believe it's a cat because it doesn't behave like any other animal I know. Sometimes it's itsy bitsy, and it has big eyes, and sometimes it's long like a slinky. And I mean, it changes all the time, and it's so sweet and cuddly and wonderful, and I've never known a cat to do that. And we have a cat because they told us, the veterinarians who we love and are in contact with, there are 4 Jewish veterinarians in town, they said that after 2 weeks, if no one claims it, and we tried very hard, but if nobody claims it, then we can keep it as our own cat. So we did, and we had it tested and for all kinds of stuff, and it was a healthy, wonderful our cat now. So every morning at 4 in the morning, Cat pokes and pokes and pokes, wanting to eat something. And at 5 in the morning, we now have because it sleeps in my quadrant. At 5 in the morning, we have this machine, this automatic dispenser, so it feeds it every morning at 5 in the morning. Well, yesterday, Ron went for a walk in the morning, and there was this precious little doggie there out, and when he was walking around. And the doggie came up to him, and he pet the doggie, and he tried to walk away, and the doggie kept coming back, and get a picture, and, Ema, there's doggie. And does it have a collar? It doesn't have a collar. Okay, so we took the dog right away to check the pet scan, no chip. And we took it home, and I put out a bowl of water, and we closed the gate at the house and let it run around in the backyard, and it kind of tried to find where the spots in the fence were that it could sneak out, but it didn't sneak out, and it stayed, and we put it on all of the social media things. And the only nibbles we got on the social media was, you probably heard that there was a dog lost in our area called Sydney, and there are rewards, and Sydney runs away. Every time you say Sydney, it runs the other way. And it wasn't Sydney, because Sydney is chipped and Sydney is a girl. And I know something about boy dogs, and this is a boy dog, so it is not Sydney. And the whole day goes by, and we're not getting anybody who recognizes this absolutely precious dog that obviously has a whole bunch of Yorkie in it. And I grew up where my best friends in life were Yorkies. When I was like 2, it was Monty. And then somewhere around when I was 5 or 6, we got Jassy until I was, the summer before I became a senior in high school. Jassy was my confidant and my best friend. And this one, Jassy was this big, and this one is like this big, but it was so sweet and so kind and so loving. And maybe this Munchie cat wants a friend. Anyway, long story short, last night someone texted us and said, it's my boyfriend's dog, and, how can we get it? The sweet thing was anyway, I won't go into all of the details. It was a lovely, happy story, happy ending, that the dog found its family. And the thing that I love about it, about all of that, first of all, we got to play a role in taking care of a lost, scared animal. But the Torah teaches us we're supposed to do that. It's in the Torah portion for this week, in this Torah portion that has more commandments than any other. It says if you see an animal, even if it's an ox, which is way bigger than a smoochy cat or even a slinky cat or a dog, even if it's an ox, even if it's your enemy's ox, if it's lost or if it's in trouble, you are obligated to try to help it. And it is part of what I love about being Jewish. I love that these are the kinds of commandments that we have, that we are obligated to take care of each other and obligated to take care of the animals in our world. So there's more on that tomorrow when we talk about Torah study, although we may wind up skipping the animal parts and talk about the stuff that MJ shouldn't hear. But I love it. I love knowing. There's one of the commandments about animals is the one where you're not supposed to yoke an ox and a donkey together, because an ox is really big and strong and a donkey's not. Plus, the kind of food that they eat is different, so it would just be an undue burden on each of them. The one about if you see a mother bird on a nest and there are eggs or in their nest, you have to shoo the mother bird away and take the eggs. So that's one we could talk about one day about why that's a good thing. I still think that that's another way that shows that we're humane. That even if you have to eat something, you can eat the eggs, but don't let the mom see you take the eggs, and let the mom live to make more eggs one day. That's an amazing thing. So it's part of what I love about being Jewish, our commandments that even take care of the animals. Madam President, why don't you tell us what we want to know about taking care of each other and ourselves? I'll put this here, and I'll sit over here.
Shabbat Shalom. Rabbi Jana, as she mentioned earlier, is having an Oneg Shabbat tonight on Zoom. It will begin about a half an hour after this service ends. Check the website for details about how to join. Torah study and Shabbat morning services will occur not in person tomorrow. They are also on Zoom. Torah study is at 9:45 and the morning Shabbat service is at 11. If you want to include names in this year's memorial book, the deadline is this Monday, August 23rd. The form is available at the B'nai Zion website to fill out online or print out to get to the office. Rabbi Jana will be having a Soloist experience via Zoom next Saturday night at 8 p.m. She will show a short movie, do Hafdalah, sing and share Soloist prayers and readings. It is a meaningful way to start and prepare for the High Holy Days. Rosh Hashanah evening is Monday, September 6th. We are watching the COVID situation closely to determine how to have services safely in person at B'nai Zion while streaming online. The North Louisiana Jewish Federation has many programs, including guest speakers about Israel, registration information about next year's Israel trip, a wonderful Jewish youth concert, and a trip to the new Jewish Museum in New Orleans. Check out jewishnla.org for more details. We have a number of congregants who have tested positive for COVID-19 recently. Most have been vaccinated. Everyone is recuperating. Please make safe choices that protect you and those around you. Donations were made to B'nai Zion Sisterhood Flower Fund in loving memory of Leon David by Patty David, and in loving memory of Louis Selber by Mandy Selber. Stay safe. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. I am going to call our anniversary couple up to help us open the ark for the Aleinu. Everyone else is turning to page 148.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
On that day, the age-old dream shall come true. On that day, O God, you shall be one, and your name shall be one. We sing on the opposite page.
Okay.
Sorry.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Is closed, you may be seated. Mazel tov again. Thank you. You may be seated. Mazel tov, mazel tov. Adam can kind of read my mind. That was good. I know, that was good. Is that what it was? You were right, both of the things you thought it was going to be. You were right on both of those counts. We continue on page 151. One of the things that I learned from reading about people's memories about the High Holy Days is that the most important part of the holy days for them is the remembering part. And we include remembering in all of our joyous celebrations. We remember those who had been with us before. So we continue on page 151. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We include among them those people who have served our country and have died serving our country this year. There are 5 people we've lost in the military this year. We've lost 205 police officers, including 100 who died from COVID. We've lost 4 in Louisiana. We've lost 12 canine officers. We've lost 74 firefighters, including 27 that died of COVID-related illness, and 1 from Louisiana. In the world, we've lost over 4,400,000 people. In the United States, we've lost over 625,000 people to COVID. In Caddo Parish, we've lost 803. And in Louisiana, we have lost over 11,900 people. As you know, the numbers are showing that if you are vaccinated, then they're showing that the percentage of people in hospitals right now, and we have 2,999 people in hospitals in Louisiana, 91% of them were unvaccinated. But the numbers, and that's the same as it's been consistently, but the numbers are changing a little bit for the cases right now, that 89% of the cases of COVID are unvaccinated people. And the number that's stressing me a little bit more is the percentage of deaths of people who have COVID. 80% of the people who die right now are unvaccinated. So that means that we have some more people who have a higher percentage than we had over the past few weeks of people who had anyway. You're hearing the numbers. Please stay masked. Please, I think everybody here was maybe vaccinated, and encourage your friends and family that it's a good day to make the decision. As we remember them, let us meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We continue on page 152. When cherished ties are broken and the chain of love is shattered, only trust and the strength of faith can lighten the heaviness of the heart. At times, the pain of separation seems more than we can bear, but love and understanding can help us pass through the darkness toward the light. Out of affliction, the psalmist learned the law of God, and in truth, grief is a great teacher when it sends us back to serve and bless the living. We learn how to counsel and comfort those who, like ourselves, are bowed with sorrow. We learn when to keep silence in their presence, and when a word will assure them of our love and concern. Thus, even when they're gone, the departed are with us, moving us to live, as in their higher moments they themselves wish to live. We remember them now. They live in our hearts. They are an abiding blessing. However brief may be our time on earth, O God, you endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. We now recall the loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. We're remembering Anne-Marie Ain, who died during this past 30 days. And we're remembering congregants' parents who died this past year. We remember Sophie Lipo, Robert Talbert, Joseph Paris, Artis Robison, George Rothkopf, Henry Brenner, Ron Riley, and Fred Phillips. And as we remember those who died at this season in years past, we take them into our hearts with our own. Those for whom we're observing your sites this past week include Jenny Baker, William Bronick Sr., Leon David, Joseph Gardspain, Benjamin Greenberg, Jesse Stark Grossman, Joseph August Hafter, Abraham Hyman, Zaneth Jones, Sylvia Katz, Helen Katzenstein, Evelyn Kern, August L. Loeb, James Manheim II, Kenneth Pittman, Jimmy Rosenblum, Mildred Schultz, Louis Selber, Anne Rosen Sussman, and Seymour Wagner. In this moment of memory, our griefs and sympathies are mingled. Loving God, we rise as together we praise your name. Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 154. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach la'alam ol'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim alenu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, alenu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. You may be seated. I feel like, Give me a shot? I'll give it a shot. I feel like something we need tonight is this one, something we just said. If it would please untangle. There you go. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, comfort to all who are bereaved. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens cause peace to reign on us, on all Israel and all the world, and let us say, amen. Please rise for the closing benediction. Help me bless each other. Look at each other. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you. May God protect you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Feel it, feel it. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face be lifted up to you. May God grant you peace. May you have a wonderful Shabbat Shalom. May this week be even better than last week. And may you have a safe journey. Shabbat Shalom.